Hello and welcome to the Weshtern Philosophy Podcast. Two friends with oceans and oceans discussing the unseen forces in our lives through the lens of music, mystery and crack. On today's episode, we discuss the seasonal topic of gifts.
So gift is like something that you have and something that you give. And then I think you get into things like love languages. Like some people, some people show their affection for people through words and some through action.
Yeah, because I figured out with you that I think one of them is physical touch. I think words of affirmation hold very little value for you.
Yes.
I've noticed. I've said to you a lot of really heartfelt stuff where I'm like, why do I even fucking bother? How are you, brother?
I am grand. I am playing with mic placements. I'm all good. It's been a funny couple of months. It's like I'm looking forward to things winding down, Bart, and it feels like there's been a slightly kind of hectic energy that has kind of continued well into December. Are you finding that?
Yeah, well, I just came back from the Kingship weekend, the Path of Sacred Kingship weekend, and I pulled poor Anthony into my home yesterday to be like, I have to tell you about this weekend because it's just going to be too much to have unsaid between us on the podcast. But regular listeners will have heard Niall on the pod, and when we spoke to Niall, then it was that last week?
Yes.
Yeah. So then we were after the online bit of the container had ended, but we were before the weekend, which was a very, very, very fucking powerful weekend. And I'm not going to go into it too much, but big healing for me, and I think a big communal healing for the land of Ireland, which sounds a bit like over the top to say, but I believe it. And for the relationships between men and women, but definitely, to keep it to my own story, for the feminine and masculine in me. So I feel very good, but I'm also feeling, like you say, it's first of all, I've just been crying, so that's nice.
Also available on our Patreon.
Yeah. Do you not do you hate it when people on Instagram are like, and filming themselves crying? I'm always like, God. I don't like it when people call people narcissists all the time, but there is something.
Yeah, look, I hear you. I used to judge people like that quite harshly. I've met now a few people that make their livings off Instagram and would present as being very, very glam and done up and a little bit hyper, and then you meet them in real life and they're just completely normal, and they're just like, my boss is the algorithm, basically.
Fair enough.
And they're like, just I'm always gathering content, and they're like, I do what the algorithm does. So the algorithm, I do find it weird though that like you open up your phone and it's just like, here's something that makes you sad, here's something that makes you angry, here's something that makes you horny, here's something, know, because like that, like filming yourself crying in your car. Some people like, oh, the poor woman. Some people like, why are they crying? Yeah. And then you're like, that's really annoying. Like it gets all these emotional responses, and few of them are positive.
True. And I have noticed when I get the response from it, I always go, time to turn that shit off. Yeah. Because it's just like, it's not helping anyone to be in that negative, even what I did just there.
Well, I get it though, because I do get it. Like if a human being is doing that, but I just think it's an interaction of human being and algorithm that is presenting. It's not just that person. Like if my mate like sent me a video over WhatsApp of them crying, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Exactly. Why are you doing this?
But it is true, because I know dead sound people who have done like weird stuff online. So 100%. Yeah. But huge healing for me, so it's been brilliant, but the body is very tired. So I 100% hear what you're saying about winding down. Like I feel very content, feel very open, but it's just it's that time of year, man.
Yeah.
And I love how like you and I, but also all the people around us, we're all very seasonal. And we talked about this before, like there's a real I think Anthony is worried because I'm actually talking quite lowly for my usual energy.
I'm waiting for the explosion.
Yeah, you're waiting for me to build up. Well, there's a whole liter of coffee. We've gotten into a really unhealthy thing where Anthony is like only takes a cup of coffee a day, and then he just gives me a liter of coffee, and he goes, "Good luck with that."
Well, yeah, I used to drink a little bit more, and I'm drinking less and less the whole time. And like, we have like a little bitty cafetiere, which like for you is like a thimble. So I'm like, you have two options. You get the tankard, you get like the trough of caffeine, or you get like the shot glass of caffeine. So I make you a trough. I mean, I think it's better for our listeners, worse for you.
Yeah. I'm just, Thursday is the piss day. Like, I'm just always going running to the Jacks on Thursday because during the recording I'm just horsing it all into me. But there were so many synchronicities after this weekend as well. And like I said, it's always that weird line of like, I love sharing with the people who listen to us, but then also some bits are so personal, whatever. But a thing that I thought was really great, it's actually a really great quality of yours, is that you're always really you're very good. The basic word that my limited English is coming up with is noticer, but I want to use a nicer word. Observant. No, there's one deeper.
Nosy.
I just got an image of you sticking your nose up my ass. I don't know why. So that's deeper.
Neither
That's
do I.
deeper. Well, deeper. You said no. Deep.
Oh,
I said
wish
deeper.
I'd
And you
done-
went nosy. But what's the one? The one that Jane Cargill said as well. The burn rewards people being
Observant?
Yeah, she did say observant. But
Yeah.
I mean the other one. The one where it's not just seeing, but it's also wisdom.
Right. Discerning?
Thank you. That's the one I was looking for. Got there at the same time, but because it's basically a competition. And one of the things you discerned was that I've had two little cholesterol buildups underneath my eye because during the COVID, we all were looking for stuff to do.
Yep.
And I found some kind of like fucking snail cream. Honestly, it was something like that. Like I had like big dark circles under my eyes from just lack of sleep with the kids and all that. And it was just a weird time. And I was very upset as well with everything that was going on at that time in Ireland and in the world. And but I put this stuff on my eyes like excessively to reduce the dark circles, and they just two white blobs of cholesterol appeared. So I stopped and I tried to get rid of them in all sorts of natural ways, but it didn't pan out. And then for anyone who knows Irish healthcare, if you want to get, by the end I was just like, I know it's pure vanity, but I'm so sick. One actually kind of disappeared and one was quite big, and I was like, I'm so sick of this thing. I'm just going to get it removed. And then in the same week as the last of the kingship was going on, they suddenly called me and they were like, hey, yeah, we can actually see you now. Can you come in tomorrow? And we'll do the plastic surgery and we'll just get rid of that thing. And then I went into the sweat lodge. And actually, the interesting thing was the wound of the surgery really healed in the sweat lodge. Even though the doctor was like, do not go into the sauna. But I was like, I don't know. I have a feeling I believe in a different world than you do, doctor. With all due respect, you did a great job. And but then I said to you about the crying, that because there was a healing of my heart, that I just been crying from gratitude, but also it's nearly like that thing of alchemy, where the heart, I've heard people say that the heart is the place of alchemy. It's not about turning lead into gold as so much as maybe turning grief into love or something, or anger into something else, like, and then you were like, yeah, isn't it interesting that you can actually give me the Chinese medicine background.
It's actually Jingming. It's so there's your little white dots were on two acupoints really near the tear ducts, and we would say that they are indicated for tear duct issues. Yeah. So they're intensely related to crying. Yeah. And they're actually on the urinary bladder meridian, which is considered to be a very emotional meridian in Chinese medicine. So yeah, it's really weird. Even though it wasn't like a natural thing that made them happen or a natural thing that made them disappear, there was this unblocking of like an obstruction to your tear ducts literally days before you went into
the timing. Like, it was an unnatural, in quotation marks, intervention, but the solution was suddenly there, even though I tried to sort it out like 2 years before. So it had been waiting and running around, and I definitely took some action in it as well, but it was amazing timing, and there was so much stuff as well because there was such a big storm and lots of stuff then. At the home front, everyone was without power, and there's just a lot of synchronicity and a lot of beautiful healing. But thank God we're back here now, mics in our faces and no guest to save us.
No fucking life preserver. Just the two of us gripping onto the coffee pot for dear life.
Gripping onto the coffee pot and staring into the void.
Yeah.
I'm quite enjoying the mellow vibe though.
Yes, I think it's needed. It's needed. I'm kind of... There's a mellowness that I'm sometimes worry will fall apart. Like, I think this is something about... I think it's good to be a little bit nervous when you're performing. Yeah. Like, have that slight edge. And I'm feeling really comfortable today, and I'm a little bit worried about it. So I'll say to all our listeners, just come hang out with us. Our last couple of episodes, I think, have been meaty. Yeah. Really meaty. Like, really fucking, Larry and Niall and Aisling before that. And Flan. Like, it's been... Because that was another funny thing that happened with this series, is that we like to, and you'll see if you look at season 1, is that I think we were trying to have like a guest every third episode or something like that. So it was like me and you and then a guest, and it was like roughly alternating.
Yeah, and if there was too many, then it would be alternating. It would be 1 and 1 and 1 and 1, yeah.
And we started up planning this season like that, and then it was really weird. None of our guests could make it at the start of the season. So like all through September and October, it was mostly just me and you. And then all the guests came at once, back to back.
And we said that would happen.
You
as well.
said that, yeah.
I think it was mainly November was a real dip because we had like, or maybe October.
Yeah.
But we started off with like ourselves, Breed, ourselves, Joe. Yeah. So that was kind of the old, and then everyone was just like, not available. Yeah. Thanks. I'm wintering or something, or autumning, I don't know.
Well, it was just people were busy, and we found it ourselves, that it was...
Oh, no, I'm not judging, but it's more like, what was the general theme? It felt to me like hibernation a little bit. Yeah. And then we're like, but December, you're still mid-hibernation, but it's kind of... we're all making an effort to show up for each other in with the holidays and December time and kind of festive time. And then they were all suddenly we got just guests.
Yeah.
It made me think of that Tommy Tiernan thing where he's like, we put St. Patrick's Day in the middle of Lent, where even Jesus came out of the desert going, "Mother of God, I'd murder a pint of Guinness."
So it was a kind of a strange energy. So we've had like a big long string of guests, and with guests, I think it's a lot about they've got to feel comfortable and supported, and so that they can give their best. Yeah. So I find like for me personally, I'm like, I love having guests on, but it's a different energy.
You don't have to deal with me.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like with the guests on, you want to elevate the guest, and because they're,
it takes the focus a bit off us. Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh God, I have to come up with interesting stuff to say,
Nah, you're interesting enough. You spew out interesting stuff all the time. Like when I was telling you about my weekend yesterday, you made like 2 or 3 observations of like, those are going to stay with me. And then even this morning when we were chatting, like we never have flim-flam chats apart from gossip. Gossip is our antidote to that.
We haven't even had that much time for gossip lately. I think that's what we're feeling. It's not your like emotional upheaval. It's like we need to.
All right, Claire, people, cover your eyes or your ears. Your ears. There we go.
We're 15 minutes in, Bart. Are we done wandering in the desert? And will we tell people what the topic is? Will we put them out of their misery and suspense? So
do it.
In honor of the festive season that is almost upon us, we thought we'd talk about gifts. And that's another like linguistic thing where it has a couple of different meanings. But the first one I want to bring up, and this is a question we get asked a lot, so I think I'll answer it. People often approach me or you, Bart, and they're like, what can we get the Western Philosophy Podcast for Christmas? So we have a list, that you
Oh, that would be horrible if we had like a wedding list where we just went like, well, we could do it a new coffee maker.
Yeah, there's a Google Drive spreadsheet in the episode description. Yeah. No, in all seriousness.
No, you're very. Sorry, just want to honor this. You're very good because even the notion of this makes me very uncomfortable. Oh, yeah. So I love that you're doing it.
Yeah,
very
me
good.
too. And there's a reason I'm doing it. At the end of every podcast, we ask for we tell people if they want to support us, they can join our Patreon or they can make a one-off donation on the Ko-fi link. That's nice, but gifts don't have to be monetary as well. And that's just something that kind of struck me when I was thinking about this topic. And we love doing this, and people have been so good and so supportive. And you know, in whatever way you are supportive, like the couple of people that have donated to join our Patreon and our Ko-fi, that's so appreciated. The people that come up and chat to us, the people that leave comments on our Instagram.
The few legends who have had us as their most listened to podcast for the year.
Tara Darlene Smith, big shout out there. Thank you for your support. And I've said it before, but Tara's book, Sunflowers in Iraq, track it down. It's wonderful.
Oh, do, yeah.
And there's a few others. There's a couple of great supporters. And I was just saying, since it is the gift-giving time of the year, I am going to say that if anybody would like to support us a little bit, it doesn't have to be financial. There's a couple of really lovely things you could do. We love what we're doing, and we'd love more people to hear it. So if you can think of anyone that might enjoy our pod, if you could send it to one person over the holidays, we'd love that. Just send it to one person you think might enjoy it. And another thing you can do, if you're a bit tech savvy, if you're on the phone, if you wanted to leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, that'd be awesome too. And it doesn't cost anyone anything, because it shouldn't always be financial, you know.
No, and Jesus Christ, leave us a positive review. I know there's a few people out there who know me and are like, this will be gas crack to wind Bart up.
Yeah.
Please do not.
Leave us a good review, or if you're going to leave us a negative review, at least make it funny.
Yeah, make it very funny, but do give us the 5 stars. But sorry, he's moving the mic back. I'm starting to rev up. I'm starting to rev up. The laugh is coming in. But and also, if you are, I think that's a beautiful notion, Anthony. Well done. Because I've really been finding this recently, actually, that the areas in which sometimes we think it has to be monetary, it's not always that useful, actually. First thing about specifically this that I want to say, if you want to make the sharing of the podcast into a real gift, try and drop it somewhere strange.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I'd like you to go. We're starting a cult. Mm-hmm. I'm giving the orders now. Listen to my voice. Mm-hmm. Drop the podcast. No, but seriously, it'd be kind of cool, because we all know the people who it's very easy to share this with, and you'd be like, oh yeah, fine, of course. But if there is something that we've done that touches on like where the Venn diagram only just meets, I would like you to maybe throw it out that way. Yeah. If you're like, I think my mother would actually enjoy the episode the boys did with Aisling, or my uncle is interested in Irish politics. Maybe I'll throw him the Flan episode or something like that.
Yeah, or even further afield, like if you know, like on the Flan episode, like I personally, I've sent it to a few friends in America and the UK and countries that have are experiencing periods of intense political division, you know, like that's nice. Or they don't even have to agree with the episode. If you think there's an episode someone would have something to say about, send it to them, because we'd love that as well. We'd love to hear another perspective on one of these topics.
And we love conversations and conversation starters. That's been the most gratifying thing for me, is people saying either, oh, it was really good for me to hear that, or, oh, hearing that has made me do something differently, or made me had a chat, something like that. But anyway, and in a more general sense, I've really been noticing, well, there's an interesting theme about money. Niall touched on this a little bit when we had him on.
Loved that bit.
That there is on the one hand there is the glorification of money. We've people who can be, and we all know that stereotype.
Yep.
You know, maybe a Wall Street trader or someone who glorifies money, and it's like, oh, I'm so successful. We all see the problem with that, but then there's also the problem of vilifying money.
Yeah.
And I personally think for you and I, it's actually good to hold money maybe in a bit higher esteem sometimes. But then again, so this is I'm just opening this for discussion. I don't have but then I've also noticed, like, we're in our late 30s now. Oh God. Yeah.
No, I think we're still mid-30s.
Mid-30s. Okay,
I think we're by our fingernails holding onto the cliff edge of mid-30s.
Yeah, and in 10 years' time, we'll be laughing, going, they were so young, they didn't know what they had. But I've also, like, so it becomes to be a time as well where there is a vast difference in the financial wealth of your peers. So I have friends who are as rich as kings and who are as poor as mice, you know, or hopefully it's not that bad. Everyone is hopefully doing okay, but it's an interesting thing. I've recently found that sometimes people will come to me. I'm wondering if this is a bit too shit of a thing to say, but I think it's interesting. We'll just go there, and otherwise you will course correct me. Just throwing that on you. Make Anthony responsible for the problems of the podcast. If there's any complaints, Anthony O'Connor at gmail.com.
It wasn't what I said. It was that Anthony didn't edit it out.
If it stayed in the edit, whose fault is it really? But like people who actually have a lot of financial wealth coming to me for something else they don't have. And that's really interesting. Not saying that I have all the other things or anything, and actually I'm financially fine. But it's like it's interesting to see, the attribution of value in that way. And it made me, I think I started thinking about this today when we were talking about gifts, because I'm quite a shockingly bad gift giver.
Are you?
In terms of like proper physical material gifts, it doesn't really register with me. Like if it's your birthday, I'm like, fuck man, there's so many birthdays in the year. What even though it's nice to do, but then if you're in trouble, I will want to give you a lot, like of help or fucking prayer or energy healing or whatever, or just a bit whatever, you know. So it's interesting. But then on the other hand, again, I also know people who have a lot of money, which makes them then also very free with other gifts because they're not worrying about money, you know. Yeah. So
I think there's two things coming up there. One of them, I think, is like the double meaning of gift, as in something you have. Like he is gifted. He's a gifted musician. He is a gifted linguist, whatever. And also the giving.
Yeah.
So gift is like something that you have and something that you give. And then I think you get into things like love languages. Like some people, some people show their affection for people through words, and some through action, and some through gift. I can't actually remember what the different ones are.
Can we do all of them? Because I think it's words of affirmation, gift giving, acts of service, physical touch.
Oh, that's right.
I think there might be a fifth one. Yeah, maybe you get it, because I think this actually is interesting.
Yeah.
Even though it feels like a bit of a modern-y...
Yeah, there are 5. God, this is the first time we've really Googled something on it.
I feel dirty.
Words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, acts of service, and physical touch.
So quality time
was the one we were missing, yeah.
Yeah, because I figured out with you that I think one of my ones, it's definitely physical touch. As you well know, I'm wonderful boy.
I'm comfortably aware of how important physical touch is.
I think words of affirmation hold very little value for you.
Yes.
I've noticed. I've said to you a lot of really heartfelt stuff where I'm like, why do I even fucking bother? You know, it's just like, he's like, yeah, it's nice that you're using those words at me. So would it be acts of service for you?
I think quality time, to be honest. maybe access. Yeah, no, I do really notice it when people come through for me. I
felt when you've asked me to do things which you don't do that often, but I've really felt like I need to make sure. I've set like double alarms for like little things for like dropping you to the airport or something like. That's probably the only thing I've ever done. For you. No, but I mean, no, I'm joking. But when you ask me to do a thing, I take it very seriously because I'm like, for some reason, I feel it would be a real problem if I didn't show up.
Yeah, and I wonder with the giving and the receiving of these things. I understand the giving. Certain people are going to be better at giving certain ones of these things than other people. Like, that's just natural. We're different people. But I wonder in the receiving, is there something that's like closed off? If like, because words of affirmation, I appreciate them, but they don't fill my cup all that much, you know. And like I can feel that this person is really, I can feel the weight of them in the person that is saying them. Like I can feel what it means to them, and I was like, I know this means that they are thinking highly of me and they're trying to communicate something, and I really appreciate that. But I'd have to, it doesn't. Yeah,
but it does. I'm just thinking that it does do something for you when it's about something you've made, I think.
Yeah, that is something that is something very specific to me in that I think Katie was like trying to work through this with me the last days. Like, I don't make things for other people, but when I put something out in the world, it's really important that it's seen. I'd rather it was hated than ignored. And then obviously if it is seen and it connects with people, that is really important to me.
Can we talk about the short story I read briefly?
I don't
actually want to necessarily go into the short story. We're going to record it.
Yeah, Bart has really kindly agreed to record one of my short stories. I'm really excited.
It's really good. I'm not going to talk about the story itself because people will enjoy it when it comes out. But I'm just thinking that, because you were saying I'd rather people hate it than it not being seen. Obviously, you prefer people to like it. But it's an interesting one because I've noticed actually that it's one of the few times that my words, well, not my words mean something to you. I'm sure my words mean something to you, but
you said
the affirmation helps.
You said something about that story that really moved me.
Yeah. So it's it feels nearly as if we've been talking a lot about this thing that Joe Hendel brought up about internal and external processing. No, that's not what it is.
I'm an internal intuitive and you are an external intuitive.
Yeah. And it feels nearly to me while we were talking about this as if there is something when you write a story that you actually go, here is something from my inner world, or here is a reflection of my inner world. And when someone says something about it, that goes in to you more than if I just say something about you.
I think that's true. Yeah, I think that's true. God, it feels very vulnerable to admit that. It's like, here's the chink in the armor. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for acknowledging that. I didn't mean it to be that. It's
good for me to know, like, because I think that is very true. Yeah.
Yeah, you're so good, man. Oh, the last one, it's great. Okay, I shouldn't hype it up too much, but
I'm so looking forward to hearing it in your voice, and I'm so glad you connected with it. I wouldn't want you to do it as a favor. I would only want you to read it like if you connected with it, and I think you do connect with.
No, I really liked it, and like I said, it was like something being uncovered rather than something being created. Whereas because sometimes when people make things, you can just go. I have it especially with songs. I'm like, oh, I can hear someone sitting down at the table and writing that down. If it's a bit effortly.
Yeah.
Like when you hear Leonard Cohen, it never feels like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can definitely hear someone taking out the rhyming dictionary and going, how am I going to bring that in? Okay, you know.
And it's not that it is effortless, because a lot of the great songs take tremendous effort, but you don't.
And it can still be great, but I suppose it comes to that thing we talked about channeling as well, where if something is at least partially channeled, there's usually some true value in it. And I love that with with you, it felt like an uncovering. But that's interesting that did resonate. I didn't think about that until this very moment.
Yeah. So that was a gift you gave me, Bart. So thank you for that. But I think that is like...
Go on.
I was reminded of something an ex-girlfriend of mine said, where... Yeah, it's coming up, so I'll say it. We were driving around and we were chatting about art. I can't remember how it came up, but she basically said, look, if a musician releases an album, if I buy 20 of those and just set fire to them in my back garden, what does it matter? The musician has the money. So I can do whatever I want with them. And I remember somebody else in the car was like, there's something wrong with that, but I'm not sure what it is. And I was like, it's because art has intrinsic value as well as monetary value. And by setting fire to a bunch of CDs, you are denying the inherent artistic value of that work and you are reducing it to its commercial value. And I found that really upsetting. Really, really, really upsetting. So there is, by reducing everything to finance, and the thing is, like love languages, certain people are gifted with finance.
Yeah.
Like, I think money is a gift, as in, I think there are certain people that are good with money. And then certain people work to become good with money. We all have to engage with it in some regard. But I think just some people, like, I see the way they work with cash, and they're just like a fish swimming in water. They just understand it. They understand how it moves and flows. I mean, I think I used to be a bit cynical about the idea that money is an energetic. But no, I think I kind of, to an extent, I really believe that now, that it is something you can be good at and work at. But also, it's not the only thing. And I think what you were getting at is that there are certain people that are very gifted with finance. And so giving them more money it isn't as meaningful for them because like it's more effortful for you.
Exactly.
But you can give them other things. You know, you can give them your time, your attention, your insight. You know, you can give them like words of affirmation. You can just be there at a low moment and stuff like that. And I think it'd be a lovely world if we could all like figure out a way to like shift and interlock all that stuff. So each of us is shoring off. Each of us has gifts and then give gifts to shore up the places where other people are not so gifted. Yeah,
I think the thing is that it's kind of money is not value, but it does have value.
Yes.
And it can be transmuted. I remember a therapist one time giving me a super meaningful healing, and I was like, and he was getting like 80 quid or something. I was like, I could never, the value of what you did was so much bigger than that. But I also can't, in that moment, couldn't afford probably much more. And he was like, yeah, I would love this to be a world where you could just give me your skill at the time that I'd need it. But we are actually not living in the same community. Yeah. So actually, it's going to have to be
money,
the money way.
Yeah.
Which was, was a very nice way of saying it. I think it kind of works that way. And I've noticed as well with music, for instance, that I feel there's a real dearth of being okay with money around these parts. So with getting paid for music, I've tried to kind of be a bit more forward and kind of make sure that not only do I get what I think is fair in that exchange, but that the people working, playing with me also get that. And that's there's been interesting responses to that, like even people being uncomfortable with it and not wanting it, like we discussed with Niall as well. But what I have then also had to learn is like, that's all well and good, Bart, but don't go too far in that either, because I've also had to learn that I also have to give my music away freely in terms of money, but not freely maybe in other ways, but for community's sake.
Yes.
So there that giving, it's very complex.
It is.
I'm feeling
you can't be charging the local primary school your normal gigging rate if you're playing at like the kids' matinee show or something.
I'd try it though. No, but 100%.
But it'd be so inappropriate.
It would be very inappropriate. Yeah. Exactly. But there's something. Yeah, I don't feel like I'm nailing it, but there is something interesting in that. I think for me the recent revelation was really dealing with people who do have a lot of money and then going, oh, but I actually have something you don't have and that you would like, which to me doesn't feel as valuable, but you really have a dearth of it.
Yeah.
And people go, yes, please, I'm actually hungry for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then seeing that is a fair exchange.
Yeah.
Instead of, because I think you and I have even talked about this, where it's like, oh, we should probably give someone money. And then it's like, it's not what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
They have that.
Mm-hmm.
You can give them more. It doesn't mean a fucking thing to them, you know? So that's an interesting one. Yeah, no, there's a full stop there.
Oh, is that what you were looking at? Okay. It took you a while to parse the full stop.
Bitch.
Yeah. Bitchy Anthony is out to drag us back down to earth. So, okay, certain people have certain attributes. There's money. What other things can you be gifted in? Creativity, communication, relationship, I would say, insight.
Yeah, but you're not gifted with money in the same way. Like, I think that is really different. Yeah, that is it feels like two separate dimensions for me. Talent and a thing in the world that you can own or not, because it's intrinsic. The talent is intrinsic to you. You can have, like, I've had a lot of money at sometimes, very little money at other times, been middling for most of the time, you know, and all that is still relative as well to the rest of the world and all that. So, but that's a thing that is in my possession or not. I do think that is different to gifts, as in he's gifted. Yeah, I think that's different.
I'm not sure. I think it might be. I think you can be gifted with money, as in I've talked.
You can have a talent with that, but then that falls into the other category. Then, do you know what I mean? You can be a gifted financier or something.
That's what I'm talking.
Yeah, but that is for me a different dimension than the having of the money.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. So I'm just like throwing out gifts. You can be a gifted sports person. You can be gifted this and that. Where do the gifts come from, Bart?
Is the bell here?
Oh God, go get the bell. I need to work out the damn song. Okay. How woo are you, Bart?
Hoe zweverig ben jij? In Dutch, woo is floaty.
Floaty. That's a floaty sound. I like that. By the way, season 2. Season 2 is the season of woo. So I don't know. Will we have to retire the mini?
You think season 3 is not going to be the season of woo? You ignorant man.
The woo is eternal, but
maybe not as highlighted.
Yeah. So I do wonder what we will do with season 3. I wonder if it would be season 3, the season of connectivity or something like that. I like, you know, but
season of Anthony's killing spree. No, it's probably better if we do connectivity. Yeah. So where does it come from? Yeah, I do think. No, you go.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I just played the drum. I've given my contribution.
Okay. Someone in construction recently said to me, I've worked under a lot of shit bosses in construction, so I became a boss and I make my men shine.
Love that.
It was really powerful when he said shine. I was like, it sparkled in the air.
The Aragorn of construction.
but there is something horrible about being a candle that's unlit.
That's so interesting you say that. I'll come back to that. But
that's probably not mine, but I don't know where that comes from. But sure, what is ours anyway? Yeah. But I do believe we're all born with some inherent talents, or we are gifted them from up on high. Choose your own deity of choice. Brackets, aforementioned deity. You know that Terry Pratchett thing where they have to fill in the card where, like, what is your deity of choice? And then they always just read out the brackets, aforementioned deity, instead of giving the name. So I feel it's something gifted, or it is something we come into this life with to learn. No, I'm really. I hate it when we're on mic and I'm scratching at an idea, but I'm just not really getting it.
I'm going to jump in because the candle thing was interesting. There's a storyteller who he talks about the idea of genius or the daemon.
Oh, it's the genie, is it? The genius.
Well, it's actually, I think genius is the Latin and the daemon is the Greek or something like that. But it's this idea of something like living inside you that's trying to go out in the world. And he claims that when you light a birthday candle, the Romans used to use it to represent the spark of genius in each person. And he talks about how your life purpose is to realize this genius, and that it's not a straightforward task, you know? Like the gentleman you mentioned had to work under some shit bosses. You know, he didn't naturally, like, it doesn't always come easy, and sometimes you have to walk down a few dead ends on the way there. And then his talent as a boss became manifested. Yeah. And this idea of, this little spark of genius in each person, and this idea that realizing that will benefit the whole world. You know, that there is something you can do that no one else out there can do. And if you are able to bring that light out into the world, that is just great for everyone. And there was something else. Yeah, and actually in that gentleman you mentioned, it reminds me of Chiron. So Chiron is a comet that is astrologically very significant, but also based on the story of the centaur, Chiron. So centaurs are half man, half beast. They were not considered to be good people in Greek mythology. They were like rowdy, boisterous, like kind of rough and tumble soldiers, you know. But Chiron was a little bit different. He was gifted in the healing arts, and he taught Achilles and I think Theseus and Heracles for a while, and then Hercules accidentally pricked him with a poisoned arrow, and Chiron went to Zeus, and because he was immortal, he couldn't die, but the poison had him in agony. So he's like, I will give up my immortality and I will die if you will free Prometheus, who brought fire to... That's interesting. That was another great gift as well, the story of Prometheus bringing fire to humanity.
Dangerous gift.
But the energetic of Chiron is where we have our deepest wound is where our greatest healing and our genius lives. And it's this idea of the wound is that point by which spirit enters. So when we are talking about gifts, I think there are gifts that come naturally. I think some people genuinely are just like very good at basketball or mathematics or whatever it is. But that is different from genius. That is different from, and genius, I don't mean like intellectually profound or anything. I just mean like this like thing that you do that no one else can do. And being gifted isn't quite enough. The gift has to be honed. It has to be sharpened. Because you can be gifted at something that makes you miserable. Like you can be very gifted at, let's say, communication, but then you spend your life working for a company that maybe you don't appreciate, using your voice and your skills of communication for somebody else. You give your voice to somebody else, and they give you cash, and they probably give you a lot of cash if you're good at it. Yeah. But that is giftedness, but it is not genius because you're not using your voice for you.
It's a really complicated, I'm realizing while we're talking about this, that it's a really complicated one. I want to honor a talent that you have in this moment, because so often I will start something. I'm quite good at just throwing shit against the wall, but I would just look at you in like helplessness, like, I don't know where this goes now. And you would go, I know where this goes. You're very talented at tying stuff together. And sometimes I feel bad. I kind of feel like I've dropped the ball, but actually it's a good collaborative effort.
I think it's perfect. I think you're very brave. You go in there, you often go heart first into topics.
And then sometimes I will complete the battle, and sometimes I would just be standing there with my sword going, fuck, where do I go now? But and also I have a wonderful talent, I've just realized, of hearing full stops in your sentences where there are none. So before we started, you were like, importing children's books. You just said importing children's books, but I heard, oh Jesus, and even now with the centaurs, you were like, they're rowdy boys to us. So you didn't say it like that, but I sometimes just hear like full stops of your sentences that aren't there. It's so
you're
funny.
looking for innuendo where there is none, Bart.
They're rowdy boys.
Yeah.
But the way you tied it back there was lovely. I don't want to go too meta, but because I was kind of going, where does it come from? Where's the answer? It isn't actually really about that. It's more about trying to give color and shape to what this thing is.
Yeah.
Because we don't know where it comes from, really.
Yeah.
We might have some notion, but I think what you were saying there is so much more important. And I love that about Chiron. It puts me in mind of that thing. What's that art? Is it in Japan where they use the gold glue to mend things?
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, you break a vase and you heal it with it's not wabi sabi. God, is the phone coming out again?
Is it gold? Well, the gold glue, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it puts me in mind of that Rumi quote of, the cracks is where the light.
Kintsugi. The crack is where the light comes in.
The crack is where the light comes in. So there's definitely. Yeah, there is that distinction of like someone like Jacob Collier, someone like where you're like, oh God, what a musical genius.
Yeah.
But then, there is a more profound genius as well that is more born of pain.
Yeah.
Like that seemed to be what you were saying, and I think I agree with it. Like I know for myself that, and I do think we are all geniuses in multiple dimensions, usually.
Yeah.
Like I have a facility with certain things where I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm just good at that. I probably learned it from someone, or because I had an innate talent, or it was God given, or it was grown. But then there are deep talents, a talent for empathy maybe that comes from pure suffering.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to go. Is like what I wanted to ask you, Bart. Have you ever received a gift that helped you express your gift? So. Like what you said there, like there are certain circumstances in which suffering is a gift that actually brings you through and brings you to insight or compassion, or even like might make you quit your job and start a new job or something, in which case that suffering is an external gift that helps you realize and manifest your internal gifts in the world. Now, it doesn't have to be negative. Have you ever received... And just to keep it Christmassy, like a conscious gift from someone that helped you, like on your path.
Okay, there's two ones that are just coming up for me, and what's coming up is usually the right thing. So the second one is because you said Christmassy. I had to change. The first one, I was actually thinking. I think I talked in our boundaries episode at the very beginning about someone screwing me over out of a job I didn't want. That was a lovely gift they gave me. And it's a nice example because we can all go to some childhood trauma or something, and that's a bit fucking heavy, and we don't mind the heaviness, but but actually just someone screwing me over in work, and then actually the moment I knew for 2 weeks I was going to get fired, and the moment I got fired, I was happy as Larry. I was just like, I think the 2 weeks were needed to just go, I'm quite bad with impending doom. I'm quite good with doom, but not, okay, that's a terrible thing to say. Sorry guys, don't smite me down this instant. I don't mean but doom is too heavy a word. But when in a crisis, or even we talked about having to have a good chat about something. When we're having the chat, I'm comfortable enough because I'm like, it's now, we're doing it now, I can do something now. Waiting for the thing is the, and that's why we had to move our chat up. This chat is starting to sound very dark. It wasn't, but but then with the work, it was like, the waiting for it was very painful for me. But then the moment it came, I was perfect. I said everything I needed to say. They were even like caught off guard. They were just like, oh, usually people really don't like it when they're being fired. And I was like, no, I completely understand. I think you are doing me dirty, but in terms of like pointing to the colleague who fucked me over, but then to the boss, just like, yeah, but you've a real point that I probably shouldn't be here, so thank you. And that was a beautiful gift. And then the second one, in terms, and also then the gift was even more so because my daughter was just about to be born, and a kind of fearful part of me would definitely not want to be unemployed during that time, but it was a wonderful gift because it was a hard labor and recovery after that for both my partner and my daughter, and I was completely free to be there with them on the dole for a couple of months. And that was a lovely gift from the government. And then the second thing, talking more Christmassy, I was thinking about my mother buying me my first guitar.
Wow.
That's a big one.
That's
a big one. And it's because like you and I are pretty gear nerdy lads. You're more nerdy about it. I'm just greedy, I think. But like we're always looking at like, oh, that's interesting. Is that a cool product? Is that an interesting brand? What does Larry think about these guitars? You know, there's a lot of...
The real test.
What?
The real test.
Yeah, the real test. Does the god of guitar playing, does he accept as well? Our nerdy god of guitar playing. But... So I've had multiple guitars. I now have 2 main guitars that I use, and I'm sure one of them will be sold and another one will be got, or you know, all that stuff. But the original one that I got from my mother when I was 16, I'm always gonna have it.
Oh yeah.
Like I can't sell it.
No.
Like I've sold a good few bits of gear and guitars and stuff, but I can never sell that because it was the entry point.
My first camera's up there.
Oh, lovely. And it's it's on a little shelf high up in the room, like it's in a museum.
Yep, that's going nowhere. Like a kit lens, dirty sensor, low megapixels, wonky old battered Canon. That's never leaving. I take it out and shoot with it sometimes as well, just to remember what it used to feel.
Like to your...
It's so limited. Output. It's so limited, but it reminds me of how things felt when I started taking photos.
Yeah, and does the limitation bring something else out in you, in your gift? Anthony has I don't know if anyone has not seen it, Anthony has a real gift for taking photo. He is... And not just because he's sitting across from me, he's my favorite photographer because it's just like, you know, he's Rembrandt. As we just a little callback for the listeners.
Honestly, when I hold that camera, it makes me feel like I'm 20 years old again, and it makes me see the world with those eyes a little bit. Like literally, because you're looking through a viewfinder. I don't shoot with a lens like that anymore. I moved to fixed length primes. You know, there's a lot about that camera which is very different about my current gear, so it's like time traveling for me, and I love it.
But it doesn't necessarily, well, I mean, it limits your process, but does it bring anything out more in your process?
Yeah, it does. You more run and gun, more gonzo, more like when I didn't really know what a camera did. I didn't know what aperture was. Like I spent like a year and a half shooting. I used to shoot on really high shutter speed. I used to shoot on the shutter priority setting on really high speed, and I didn't realize what it was. But when you put up the shutter speed really high, it has to widen the aperture, and I didn't know what aperture was, but I knew I liked the look of a wide aperture. So I have all these photos that are really underexposed with a really wide aperture, and I started to really love that.
Yeah, I don't really understand that.
It's I could explain it, but it's not worth going into. Basically, I didn't even know how to use my camera properly.
Yeah.
And I ended up, through that ignorance, finding an interesting little style and stuff that now that I know how to use my camera, quote unquote, properly, I would never shoot like that, but I actually quite like.
Well, and it's interesting that the gift, well, maybe it wasn't a gift. Maybe you bought it. You bought it, okay. Yeah. But anyway, but the gift that the camera gave you, that's the funny thing with gifts. Like they give themselves and they give things themselves. But like the gift that the camera gave you is that gonzo style, because that is something I really enjoy in you, is that I can actually, I've been in quite a few pub situations where you're taking photos and I can still have a completely coherent conversation with you. Like you're not gone.
Yeah.
Whereas I have friends who are, when they're with the camera, they're completely gone. Because they're just like, this needs to be like that, and can you come back in? And you're never like that. You're like, we're here to capture moments, and I'm part of the moment as well. And yeah, I can talk to you, and you just go, chung, 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 chung. Doesn't even sometimes look like you're looking through the viewfinder. You're just like, boom, 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 that's there. And then there'll be brilliant moments captured. I'm wondering now, talking about the guitar, if it has gifted me, well, it's gifted me entry into that world.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if it is, in terms of style, if it's gifted me anything. I'm not sure about that. I'll have to think about that. Maybe it's gifted me. It's quite a robust guitar, like a Court from Taiwan.
Right.
And
solid. Solid
very,
guitar.
very solid. It was like, I think it was like €350.
Yeah. Oh, those Courts were.
And they were just, but for that money, it just gave you so much. It was one of those ones where you just knew, like, oh, you're getting real bang for your buck. And actually, I can still play it without minding it, which is a real, like, I remember going out, other people asking me, hey, Bart, can you help me buy my first guitar? And they'd be looking, for a €200 guitar or something. And I'd be really good at going, yeah, this is the kind of one you want. Actually, pay extra €30 now. It will give you 5 extra years. Because at the bottom of that range, there's real value in every dime. Whereas the more you go up, it goes exponentially. Like when you go from a 6,000 or a 7,000 euro guitar, that €1,000 is doing very little. It's mainly ornamentation or a story or something, which actually is very valuable in a way. Like I'm thinking of Larry's Bog Oak on the guitar. Like that's fucking awesome. But
but you're right. Like the difference between a 250 and a €350 guitar can be night and day.
Exactly.
But the difference between a 5,000 and a €6,000 guitar might not be that much.
No, probably. Chances are it's not that much.
Yeah.
But I mean, individual €5,000 guitar and an individual €6,000 guitar can be very different. That's not the issue, but you know what I mean. But what I was going to say is that it is really sturdy.
Yeah.
So it's weathered time. It's weathered my drunken college days. Actually, fucking traveling in a hard case in the what do you call that on the plane? The luggage
cargo hold.
The cargo hold of the plane. Like I would never do that now with a guitar.
Yeah.
But like it survived and it was fine. But I think like anyone who's seen me play has probably seen me break strings.
Yeah.
That is probably a gift of the Court. Because it was so sturdy that I just could not break.
Yeah.
Or it's hard enough to break the strings. Other guitars are more sensitive.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that.
It was hilarious that Larry was, who was on the podcast 2 weeks ago, and he was just like, no, it's just, if you use a heavier gauge pick. Oh, this is horrible, Larry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I heard him say that to you, and I actually almost jumped in.
And I was just like, he's right. Yeah. So he said, if you use a heavier gauge pick, you're just putting in less effort. But I'm not going to put in less effort.
You don't.
Like, especially when I'm playing trad. Like, if I'm trying to do hybrid picking, which is like holding the pick between your thumb and your index finger and using that for the bass and then using your other fingers to pluck or to pick, and then you can still, also strum and you can alternate that. It might work for that, but that's not how I play fucking trad. When I play trad, and it's always the fucking slides. Always
Two
the fucking
strings,
slides.
was it?
2 strings in the Kings of Kerry.
Yeah.
Because it's like
leaving me to be the only backing instrument, and also because you changed your first string. I think Trish kept, was it the first or second slide, going for like 5 rounds because we'll give
I was
Bart,
like, keep it going.
Yeah, and
because I wanted to be part of it
my
for the Kings of
fucking
Kerry.
arm was goddamn dead, and then I was like, okay, Bart's back in. I can like pull back a small, second string breaks, and I'm like, fuck, never again.
And I was just, at that moment, just like, I'm going to throw out all my plectrums that are heavier than 0.73 gauge, and I'm just going back to 0.6.
Yeah.
And
I know, it's so funny.
it.
Like I think I was setting up gear when Lara was like, "Yeah, sure. If you just use a heavier pick, you have to use less." And I was like, I genuinely was about to say to you, Bart, this does not apply to you.
Well, you could have saved me a few bob. Larry, you owe me €24.
Larry owes you nothing.
Larry, I know you flew over here, and you had to rent a car and drive over. You owe me €24, buddy. Sorry, we shouldn't.
So I'm trying to think of like nice gifts I've received.
Yeah.
A friend of mine gave me Fictions, the short story collection by Jorge Luis Borges, whose name probably Jorge Luis Borges, the author. That changed my life. Reading, I realized that like that book has maybe 20 or 30 short stories in it, and every single one of them will change how you view the world. Like you will be a different person after you read each of those stories. and he played so much with form. Like sometimes he'd do this thing where he's like, I want to write a book that says a certain thing. He's like, I don't really have the time. So what he'd do is he would write book reviews of fictional books. And it was like, oh, that says it. Like, imagine that the book is already written and then this is the review of it. So instead of writing a 500-page book, that he writes a 15-page review that says everything he needs to say.
That's
so he
brilliant.
reviews of fictitious books and stuff. So just really playful, lots of work in the dream world, lots of work with symbols and imagery and like breaking down. You know, he's got a story called Funes the Memorious, which has like really profound implications for the scientific method and things like that. So even like these like little stories, they come back to me over and over. So that was a great gift. I'm trying to think of other gifts. It wasn't technically a gift, but the fretless bass I play, that was my buddy Neil O'Brien wanted to. He's a guitarist, but he's always liked bass. And we went halves on it. It was his idea to get it. So he was like, let's go halves on a fretless bass, and I'll take it for a few months and you take it for a few months. So I think, did he have it first? Anyway, he had it for a good long time, and then he gave it back to me. And then when he gave it back to me, I was like, actually, I fucking love this. And I bought out his half of the instrument.
Yeah.
But it was him. It was him that was like, let's pick one of these up, you know, fretless acoustic guitar bass. I'm trying to think of other gifts. People have given me stuff that is engraved, which means a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it brings you back to certain...
I think you and I both see real significance in things being imbued.
Mm-hmm.
When you said that about being engraved,
yeah,
there is something, objects can really be imbued with things.
Yeah.
We were talking this morning about a bass guitar we saw online.
Oh yeah.
Which
well, we're gonna fuck our
maybe
chance of
I was thinking about let's maybe not do it because they're really cool
say it.
brand.
It's great. It's an emerald acoustic guitar bass, and it's awesome. It's a 5-string. Sounds great. It's got that like thunky wooden sound.
I think
that
Emerald
really
guitars
like.
make amazing guitars, and they're a Donegal based company.
But it's called the Balor bass. And Balor of the evil eye, the leader of the Fomorians, like a mythological race that lived to the west of Ireland and forced the Firbolg and the Tuatha Dé Danann to pay tribute to them, and then they went to war. Lugh slew Balor of the evil eye. He had this evil eye he would open up and it would kill anyone that saw it, you know. So it's like weird to name a bass after a giant, monstrous oppressor.
Well,
Ireland.
you completely understand it because it's a giant instrument with a very deep tone. So I get it.
And Balor bass sounds cool.
It sounds cool, and I really think they're an awesome company. So let that be known. They awesome. Seem really sound, and I'd love to play one of their guitars. Yeah. But I think you and I both went, wouldn't have gone with that.
Well, we have respect, like you said, for the myth. It always blows my mind when I see veterinary practices called Cuchulainn veterinary practice, and I'm like, do you know how Cuchulainn got his name by killing a dog? Don't name a veterinary practice after it.
Yeah, there is something, or we know multiple people who have dogs called Puka.
Yeah,
and it's just like, I think we both really respect that kind of, what would you call it, folklore, or So in a way, like it's brilliant that Emerald guitars bring that on.
Actually, that's awesome.
But in a way, we are both too serious to take it that lightly. I think that's probably what it is.
That's probably it. Yeah. And you know what? Again, now that you say it, we're now talking about Balor. We've now resurrected the myth of Balor and the Fomorians.
So in a way, they've nailed it. Maybe
you know, and like you're like, what's better? Like they are keeping that alive.
Yeah.
Like,
we've changed our minds now. That's funny. I love it when that happens on the podcast where you just go. But actually, because like I completely already got it. Yeah. It was like, oh, it's a deep tone because Balor, in my head, it looks a bit Balroggy as well, which probably isn't right. But you know,
it's also a 5-string bass, so it has a low B. As well, you know?
I didn't think about that. That's brilliant. But like in a way, if you're playing music together, and if you're playing bass, you're probably playing music together. In a way, it's brilliant that you're adding the drums of the deep, or whatever it is, you know, the footfalls of the giant, or so in a way, expressing that darkness is fine. You would probably you would wonder if you were just enacting a lot of darkness. Or not just, but if you were also enacting a lot of darkness.
Yeah, there's not much to love about the Fomorians, you know, in the mythology. Like the Firbolg and stuff like that, they hung around and they became warriors, and there was good and bad tribes good and bad tribes within the Firbolg. But the Fomorians, I don't know if any of the Fomorians ever came around and were ever depicted nicely. I'm not sure. Somebody can correct me on that.
Maybe it's maybe thanks to Emerald Guitars, the healing starts now.
That's it.
And that is the first one who will now get a positive mention in the annals.
I do like that they're keeping it alive. Yeah, I maybe have changed my mind on that.
It's nice when you actually go into something and shine a bit of light on it. It does always change. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just looking over at my bookshelf here, and like, couple of these books were gifts from people. The Commanding Self by Idris Shah, that was a gift from my friend Diarmid. That book means a lot to me. I think books are good. For me, I think books hit really hard. Yeah. As gifts. Any other great gifts you've ever received? And that, by the way, the follow-up is going to be, what's the worst gift you ever received, Bart, as well.
Oh, no.
Let's start with nice ones, because we're on that for the moment. But like,
I already gave what came up, because otherwise I'm going to go down into hell and think about, you know, the gifts. Yvonne says this as a therapist, that, you know, if I was going to say something therapeutic that I don't think is right, so I'll leave that. But she definitely has said that if you are able to process trauma or something, a great sadness, a great tragedy, if you can fully process it, or, you know, really be with it, there will also always be the treasure from it.
Yep.
So that is the gift.
But even physical gifts, like even just presents that people have given you, anything.
There's endless amounts of that, because people are awesome. This weekend I had people show up for me in ways that that's interesting. There was a real this might be a bit too personal, but we'll see if it stays in. But there was a real thing this weekend around. It's apt because it's about receiving. And I told you this story, but there is a real issue I have had with being able to receive. So that's actually really apt when we're talking about gifts, that I've had a real issue relaxing into the fact that someone is giving me something and that I don't have to work for it or don't have to do anything. I can just enjoy receiving it, and I don't have to feel guilty. Or I don't. And I... doing all this work with Niall and Michaela and all the kings, there was a beautiful moment this weekend when I realized that was something, because we were going into a sweat lodge, and in a sweat lodge it's a womb, spiritual womb. So you're like, something is being born and something is being let go of. What the question was, what needs to be let go of in order for your new self or your new future to be born. And the thing I came to with a bit of help was, fear of not being able to receive. And then the gift I was given last Saturday, which possibly was the greatest, one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given, is the presence of... I'm just laughing thinking about Niall talking about the number of men, but so 18 in total, so 17 with me included. 17 men just holding me in that hyper vulnerable space where I decided I'm going to step into this little sacred space, this little sacred area. Hi guys, I'm going to try and receive from you I don't even know what I'm receiving from them, but your presence, your love, your attention. I am not going to do a thing. I'm just going to open the door of my heart a tiny bit, and you're going to be able to look in and shine your light in. And I'm terrified. And I said it as well. I said, I'm terrified. If you said, like, you're gonna fight a heavyweight boxer tomorrow, I would be pretty terrified, but I would be less terrified than in that moment, you know. And they just all looked at me with absolute love in their eyes, said beautiful things about me that I could feel were true.
Yeah.
And it healed my heart.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best gift I got this year.
But I love that that's awesome. It's really beautiful. And I love that you were so right to talk about the receiving aspect of gifts as well.
Yeah.
We're watching Father Ted, me and Katie.
Yeah.
And it's so fun because it was all filmed around here. So like you're watching
I
it and you're like, I know that field.
Yeah.
I know that pub, you know, it's amazing. But there's that episode where they go to the mainland, which is actually filmed in Ennisdiamond, and Mrs. Doyle and her friend go out for tea, and each of them tries to pay for it, and they end up like scrabbling on the ground and having a big fist fight because neither of them can receive the gift of somebody paying for their tea, and it just gets taken to its insane, logical,
it's a farcical,
but it's so true. Like it's mad, and there's it is a tough one. It is a tough one. Like we've mentioned Hades a few times before, the guitar, the baritone guitar that Larry gave me, and for like I've had it for about 3 years now, and every time I'm just like, I'm just minding it for you, just minding. And Larry has to say, no, it's yours. I'm like, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
you're really bad. There was one situation where I thought someone wasn't, we'll have to keep this anonymous, but I thought someone wasn't looking after you, and in my overbearing way I talked to them, and they were like, no, he just won't fucking accept it.
Oh, I don't know this story.
Yeah, I'll tell you off air. But it's just like, no, he's just being really weird about accepting it. But
that's definitely something I struggle with.
Well, there's a real, like with stuff like that, you also have to honor that there's a reason that you're mistrustful.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't, sure. It isn't we're not doing it for the crack. Yeah. We learned that wasn't the way to be. I think that is an apt story. I always want to make sure I don't tell, like, it needs to be fun to listen to, and it also shouldn't be too poor, but I'm happy enough with that because it's only about my experience. But that was a huge one for me. What was the best gift you ever got?
Yeah, I don't know. I've gotten a couple of nice ones. Yeah, I really appreciate people's time and stuff. When I think back to it, I do just think of like time and experiences with people, but nothing's really like Hades was a big one. The instruments, the fretless bass, they were really big ones. I'd have to think about it. Yeah.
I'm going to give you a terrible gift right now.
Tell me.
I'm going to the toilet.
Oh.
And you're going to be on air for 1 minute.
Oh, that's rough.
And I'll give you an out. Mm-hmm. If you feel really uncomfortable, you can be silent for a minute.
Oh,
and you were not going to edit that out, mm-hmm. and you're going to hold that. It's a bit of a cursed gift, but I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, no, that's a cruel thing to do to our listeners. So no, I'm not leaving a minute of dead air.
It will stay with you in that minute.
It will stay with me. I don't know if inflicting my therapy on our listenership is the right thing to do. Blarney, what's the best gift you've ever received? Blarney loves toys. I think we can always fill a bit of airtime with a Blarney story. Blarney loves presents. He loves toys. We have to buy him the Kong toys. I'm not searching for another sponsorship here, but like he's a powerful dog, and the other ones don't last a minute. But he has this amazing ability to know when a present is for him. So like we'll wrap things up in wrapping paper, and there could be a few presents there, and he'll know the one that's for him. Or one time he walked into the room while Katie's mum was wrapping a present for him, and he knew it was for him. He went straight over to her and like stuck his nose in it. So he'll be getting something this Christmas. And he has like a little box full of toys. But the nice thing about Blarney is he wants to use the toys to play with you. So for him, they're a little bit of a tool of connection, which is lovely. Very weird. How do people do podcasts on their own? Bart, how do people do podcasts on their own? I feel like a crazy person. I hope the fucking mic picked that up.
Hello.
Yes.
That was quite a cruel thing to do, but I have a gift for manipulation, and I knew if I said you could leave it a minute empty, you would talk.
I'm not
exactly.
Yeah, but
I
can't.
manipulated you into talking on.
You didn't manipulate me. I'm not going to leave a minute of dead air in the middle of the bloody podcast.
I honestly think if you would give me a minute, this is so weird, but I'm fucking just rolling with it. Yeah,
go for it.
But like, no, I mean, just this whole situation I've created is just really weird. But I honestly think if you gave me a minute of dead air, yeah, I could probably take it. I would probably, but maybe that's just my ego or something. But I would just go, right, everyone. Yeah, just kind of feel into them. They are listening. There's a weird thing with that. I mean this seriously. There's a weird thing with. I think I mentioned this at my sister's wedding about my strong connection. It's her birthday today. Hartelijk gefeliciteerd, Anne.
Happy birthday.
And there's a strange thing with space and time and connection because I was at her wedding talking about how connected I feel to her. I love her deeply. But because she always listens to the podcast, like she's kind of here energetically in the room for me. But this is not going to come out for another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But even like if I was just imagining it there while I was having a piss, you know, one of the things you imagine while you're on the chat. Anthony is like, this is going so wrong. He hates it.
This is such a visceral episode.
Yeah, but it's fine. I'm kind of enjoying the mayhem of it a little bit. Sorry if everyone hates it, but deal with it yourself, please. You're grown-ups. You should be grown-ups. If you're not a grown-up, don't be listening to this. But yeah, I honestly feel like I could feel, if you could feel into the people listening, because they are here in a weird way, even though they're not able to listen to it yet.
There is a compression of space and time when we think about people we're close to.
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
I've destroyed Anthony, everyone. It's finally, it took me about 22 episodes, but this was just so much chaos and mayhem.
This was pretty chaos, and the gear is misbehaving.
Oh, is it? Oh, fuck off. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good, but it's all part of the chaos, and it's a gift, Bart. I'm sure it's a gift that's going to give.
Well, I enjoyed this actually, so but I do enjoy putting you on the spot a little bit.
You do, and thank you, Bart. It's a great gift. It's one that maybe you've given me enough, so maybe next year you could maybe get me something else. I don't know. Just see how it feels.
Can I return this gift?
I might give it back to you.
Well, the greatest gift is the gift of your friendship, Anthony. Sit in that for a moment. I've not only broken him, I've made him angry now.
But you couldn't even keep a straight face while you said it. But
the face, I meant it 1,000%. You know I do, but the smile was because of your discomfort.
We'll leave it there.
Leave it there, so. This has been Weshtern Philosophy. Follow us on the socials at Weshtern Philosophy Pod. If you want to support the podcast, you can join our Patreon to help the show grow, or make a one-off donation via the Ko-fi link in the episode description. We'll be back next week with more chats and another topic. Slán.